Hi, my name's Jeff Grant. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. Yes, that might sound weird as I'm about to hit upload on my 500th video. Okay, you can only see about 476 or so of those videos because a few of them are set to private because they're either really old or really bad or really old and really bad. But, sidebar, some of those videos are unlisted and can be found as Easter eggs inside playlists. So I thought it was a good idea to just let you know a little bit more about me. And since it's been so crappy and miserable for like the past month and a half, I figured we'd start out here just so it looks a little bit different because the studio is awesome and I love it. But I was getting sick of just recording only in the studio. Okay, it's getting dark and I'm cold, so now we can go inside. I was born in Scranton, Pennsylvania. You know Scranton.
Sitting in my office with a plate of grilled bacon. Call a man white just to see what was shaking. Yo, Mike, our town is dope and pretty. So check out how we live. In the Electric City. They call it Scranton. What? The Electric City. Scranton. What? The Electric City.
I have two siblings, a half-brother and a half-sister. And to be honest, we don't really talk that much. When I was in preschool, we moved to Taylor, which is really just a suburb that borders Scranton's west side. For school, I went to Riverside, from elementary through high school. As a kid, I played sports, baseball, basketball, football. And I was actually really good at football, but I honestly didn't have much interest in it. I preferred things like skateboarding, rollerblading, and riding bikes. I did get into track and field in high school, and I ran for, I think, 2 years. And I was pretty fast for a fat kid. Okay, I was mostly just chubby in high school, but I did put on the freshman 40 once I hit college. But that's getting ahead of ourselves. Let's get back to the childhood. Skateboarding, it's pretty expensive, and as a 12-year-old, you have to find a way to pay for boards quickly. So I started delivering newspapers. I started by taking over my sister's paper route, and then somewhere along the lines, I got my own route, and I did that until I was 16 years old. And that's when I started working concessions at the Scranton Wilkes-Barre Red Barons Stadium. They were at the time the AAA team for the Philadelphia Phillies. I sold everything from hot dogs to pretzels to cookies and Dippin' Dots. I worked here for 3 baseball seasons, but after the first season, I needed a job because, well, there's nothing to do in the winter when there's no baseball to play. That's when I started working at the best job of my entire life, Quince Army Navy. I worked here pretty much for 11 years straight and then another 2 years off and on for seasonal help. But there were a few pauses in my employment and we're about to get into why, which is college. I graduated high school in 1999 and I started by going to the Penn State Worthington Scranton campus. It's in Dunmore, which is one town north of Scranton. Now I went to college for 5 years and before you even ask, no, I didn't fail, I changed my major a few times. I started in environmental resource management. What does this mean? After that, I changed my major to secondary education, earth and space science, which changing from that, I honestly regret because I would love to be a teacher. While being an education major was great, I got this idea in my head that I wanted to be a writer. Now, yeah, like all writers, I wanted to write the next great American novel, but I at least had the forward thinking to realize that sitting around writing a novel that probably wouldn't sell wasn't gonna pay the bills. So I decided to be a journalist, and I went to school for print journalism. I was gonna write for the newspapers. This is where I finally moved down to Penn State, Maine. My first year down there, I had plans of getting an apartment with a really good friend of mine, who, at the very last minute, decided to drop out of school and not tell me. So, our plans of getting an apartment fell through, which meant I had no place to live. And to be honest, that really scared the hell out of me. This was the first time I was about to move away from home, and now I had no place to live. Luckily, I got into supplementary housing, which pretty much means I lived in the dorms for a year, but they didn't have any more dorm rooms left, so I lived in what was to be a study hall at the end of the dorm hallway with like 7 other dudes in this big freezing cold room. And by big freezing cold room, I mean you can wear a parka and you would still be cold in this room. There was no heat. And State College is cold in the winter. But getting back to the college experience, State College was amazing, and living in the dorms was actually a blessing in disguise. I met this girl that lived on my floor that, I know her name, but she wasn't a very good person, but through her, I actually met one of my very best friends, the Jill W. Jill and I don't talk that much anymore. She lives in Maryland, I in Pennsylvania, but we were the bestest of friends for a very long time. And we hung out for a long time after college. So, not gonna say your name. Thank you for introducing me to Jill W. A funny thing happened while I was down at State College. I was at a show at a place called the Crowbar, and I ran into a guy who I had German class with in Penn State Worthington, and we were pretty good friends. He was a film major. Getting any ideas here? Well, we were really good friends at Penn State Worthington. He needed an apartment. I needed an apartment. I knew another guy that needed an apartment. So we pulled our resources and the three of us got ourselves an apartment for the next year. Now, that third roommate didn't work out too well. Yeah, he lived with us for an entire year. He paid his bills, but he was, let's just say he wasn't a very cleanly person. Anyway, Paul and I became super tight friends, and while he was a film major, this is where I started to learn about videography. I helped him out a lot. I acted in a lot of his student films. I was a PA on his sets. I helped him edit a little bit. This is where I started to learn Final Cut Pro way back when it was an Apple PowerBooks. They were Apple PowerBooks. When you flipped them open, the Apple logo was actually upside down. They were black. They only came in black. It was plastic. It was massive. And I learned how to edit on that thing. It was great. I sucked at it, and that's kind of what led me into becoming a videographer down the line. But it was great. I learned a lot from Paul. I had a blast. I only wish I had some clips of the student films that I acted in for him because they're pretty priceless. Now, I graduated from college in 2004. This entire time, I was still working at Quince Army Navy. In summer, during breaks, and on a couple weekends a month, I'd drive home, I'd hang out, I'd work, I'd make some money. This is how I paid my rent, bought my books, and was able to afford the cheapest of cheap beers that they served in State College. But once I graduated, Paul and I had an idea. We were gonna move to Florida. So we did just that. In November of 2004, I left it all behind. Okay, not all of it. I rented a U-Haul, packed up my motorcycle, packed up my car, and I drove to Florida. Immediately got there, got on a cruise ship, and then about 3 months later, I decided Florida wasn't for me, and I moved back to Pennsylvania. And I promptly got my job back at the Army Navy store, where I continued to work for another 3 or 4 years until we closed the store in 2007. But we didn't get there yet. Once I got settled back in from Florida, I really threw myself into music. Me and my friend Chris, you know Chris, we would plug in our amps, turn up the PA system, and play in the back of that store until 2 or 3 in the morning almost every night. We would play fast, we would play loud, and we would have so much fun. We played a few shows. We played a lot of open mics, just about every Monday night for almost 2 years straight. But once we shut down the store, we didn't have a place that we can just play all night long, so the practices became fewer and further in between, and that playing out really tapered off. And this is also when I started working at Gander Mountain. And while I was working at Gander Mountain, Amy moved back from Philadelphia to Scranton, and I ran into her one night at the bog. And shortly thereafter, we started dating. And right around that time, the opportunity arose for me to get a full-time job as an in-house videographer, and I jumped at that chance. Things were going great. Around 2009, Amy and I moved in together. We got our first apartment in the hill section of Scranton. We got engaged on Halloween. And then 2 weeks later, I was laid off. This leads into the worst year of my life. Amy, luckily enough, had just landed a full-time job at a hospital, but it was about an hour away, and she was making this commute every day for months. So we decided we're just gonna move down there. It was closer to Allentown, Pennsylvania, which would allow me potentially more opportunities to get work because Allentown is a bigger city than Scranton. So we moved to a town called Weisport. The town itself is only about 3/4 of a mile big. It's sandwiched between a river and a canal. I was unemployed for 7 months. Couldn't find work. No one wanted to hire me. But this is when things turned around yet again. I actually got a job working for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania at a state-owned and operated psychiatric facility. To be honest, a lot of the work was backbreaking. It was some stuff that I've never in my life pictured myself doing. But to be honest, it was actually probably the second or third best job I ever had. And as life goes, we can never be too happy. So I saw the opportunity for a promotion, and I applied for that promotion and I got it. I was now going to be working at a youth detention center that was about 45 minutes away on the toll road, and they lied to me in the interview. This job was not nearly as great as they made it sound. There were a few situations that things got a little bit hairy. So, when another opportunity arose for me to go back to the company that I had previously been working for as the one and only full-time in-house videographer, I 100% jumped at that opportunity. And I felt a little bad because there were a few people there that were a good crew that I worked with a lot. I felt bad leaving them behind, but I did not feel bad handing my letter of resignation to the director there and leaving that job behind me and going back to being a videographer, which is where I still am today. I am very satisfied and very happy with my job. Yes, you've seen a little bit of the behind the scenes. No, I never say exactly where I work, and no, I will never say exactly where I work. So, don't ask me that because I will not answer. A few of the details that you thought I was going to pass over are, in December of 2010, Amy and I bought our first house, which is where we are sitting right now. Also, that same month, like 2 days after we moved into the house, we adopted Oliver. And 2 years ago, in 2016, we adopted baby cat, whose name is actually Bella. Bella Donna Took. I got to name her, so I named her after Frodo's mom. I'm a pretty big fan of Lord of the Rings. I usually read through the books once a year, but I didn't read them yet this year because it's only February. I got my first tattoo at the age of 18. It's a black with red outline Spitfire wheels head right back here. I started taking running seriously about 5 or 6 years ago. I have run 3 full marathons, 4 half marathons. Races, I've definitely run the distance of a half marathon countless times. I have an addiction to leather jackets and backpacks, and I started vlogging about a year and a half ago. And the reason I started was I felt like I was in a bit of a rut, and I wanted to change things up. I wanted to do different things. I wanted to do new things. I wanted to learn new things. And a lot of people cite Casey Neistat as the reason to start vlogging. And while at the time, yes, I watched a lot of Casey Neistat, but the main reason I started vlogging was because of Adam the Woo. I really got into him. I love that he could vlog and he could do exploration videos and check out all these abandoned locations and stuff on his main channel and the Daily Woo. That's really what's inspired me. So yes, I watched a lot of Casey Neistat. Yes, took a lot of pointers and a lot of the tips that he did, and I implemented them into this vlog. But the main reason I started was Adam the Woo. So Adam the Woo, if you by chance see this video, thank you very much for your inspiration. Now that you know a little bit more about me and about my actual life and not just what I show you on camera, if you have any more questions, use that comment section down below. That whole thing down here, it's there for a reason. Let's converse. Ask me some more questions. What do you want to know about me? Tell me something about yourself. Let's converse down there. Let's get this conversation going. If you like this video or any of my other videos, do not forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Do not forget to smash that big red button and ring that bell right next to it so you get notifications next time I post a brand new video. Good night.